In Week 4 against the Seattle Seahawks, the Detroit Lions' motivation was to finally get a win over said team. But as we get set to play against the Cowboys, the motivation is of a completely different nature, and we're going to talk about it. So stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, my Detroit Lions fans and family members. How are y'all doing? Hopefully well. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. My friends, I'm going to tell you this right now. If we all thought that the game against the Seattle Seahawks was a big to-do, which, don't get me wrong, it definitely was. But if we thought that was a big game, as far as what it meant to the fan base, what it meant to the team, this upcoming game against the Cowboys, I'm telling you this right now, when it comes to both us, the fans, and when it comes to the Lions' actual, team, organization, there is no misunderstanding, there is no delusions about the importance, the meaning of this upcoming game. This has been a game that I would have to say that for quite a long while, we have been waiting for because we knew we were going to get it, and now it's almost here. Now, why is this all the case? I'm going to tell you this right now. Regardless of what anyone wants to try and tell this game to be as, what they try to sell it off as, oh, it's a playoff-esque game, oh, it's a conference game, which, don't get me wrong again, those are all things that are definitely part of this game. But at the end of the day, let's cut through the bull crap here. Let's acknowledge the fact that this game is all about payback. It's about a personal vendetta to get payback for the fact that the NFL screwed us over last year. Dallas got away with one, and a lot of Lions fans feel that Jerry Jones definitely had some sort of, I would say, undertaking into making sure that happened. Because how that whole thing went down last year, absolutely sketchy as hell. And let's add further insult to injury, as us Lions fans already remember. This is not the only time that Dallas has found a way to screw us over while in Dallas. Again, obviously there's the whole incident last year, which is the fresh one, with Taylor Decker and the, he didn't report as eligible bull crap. But then when we go back 2014, there was the whole, pass interference call on, Brandon Pettigrew that was all of a sudden picked up, and then that was one of the reasons we wound up losing that game in the wild card against said Cowboys. So, those two losses in particular have both, I wouldn't say scarred us in a bad way. I would say it has motivated us from the scars of fact that we lost those games, even though we shouldn't have. It's influenced us. It's inflamed the Lions. It's inflamed us fans to where it's like, okay, we know what we're going into this game for, and we know exactly what we're after. And I'm telling you this right now. There are a few other teams that us Lions fans and the Lions probably want to see have the sheer anguish of defeat on their faces after we're done with them. And that would be the Cowboys. Obviously, we can talk about the Packers and the Bears and all that nonsense, but it's like, dude, the Cowboys are literally right up there because it's like, dude, you deserve to get your ass handed to you, especially for all of the times that you have been literally gifted victories from the NFL over some really terrible calls. So that's why this episode is called what it is, because I'm telling you this right now, I want to lay a Texas-sized heartache on those Cowboys. I want them to be crying crocodile tears for literally over a week. But as we all know, and I said this, when we played the Seattle Seahawks, talk is all well and good, but can the Lions actually back up and do what I am saying here? Can they go into Jerry World and not only beat, but embarrass the Cowboys? And put it this way, I fully think they can. I think they plan to, and I think they will. Now, again, I can talk about that, but is there any actual evidence for this? Well, let's consider this. First and foremost, let's take a look at how Dallas has been playing on defense this year. Now, why am I starting with that? The reason why I'm starting with it is because Dallas right now is absolutely demoralized in terms of the fact that they're missing a lot of their defensive starters and their defensive stars. Micah Parsons is most likely not going to play in this game. Marshawn Kneeland is not going to play in this game. Then you take into fact Lawrence is not going to play in this game. That is 3 huge defensive linemen, defensive edge rush type players that are not going to play. So that is going to hurt the Cowboys immensely. And that's why I'm starting off with the defense here. When you consider how the Dallas Cowboys are on defense, as I put the stats up on the screen, what you're going to notice here is that for the most part, it's not too bad. There's actually some spots which are okay. They're not terrible. But when you get down to the rushing defense, all hell breaks loose. They're 24th in rush yards. They're tied 28th in rush touchdowns. They're 30th in penalties. So this is a defense that can't stop anybody on the ground, and they're absolutely putrid when it comes to freaking trying to play clean. And then if that weren't bad enough, if you go to their conversion percentage, oh sure, on third down they're good, but fourth down conversion percentage, they're terrible. And their red zone defense is one of the worst in the league. It's actually second from the bottom. So let's put it in perspective here. This is an average defense on total that is, for total yards, pass defense, whatever. It's average. But when you take a look at everything else, their run defense is terrible, and their freaking conversion percentage, as far as downs, is terrible, except for third down. That's actually great. But like I said, they have no ability to stop a team on fourth down or in the red zone. And if there's one thing we know as Lions fans, our offense has shown a great ability to get into the red zone, and over the last couple of weeks, it has shown a great ability to now start scoring in the red zone. So again, much like I was explaining with the Seattle Seahawks game when I started looking at these stats and started putting together all the information as far as, okay, these guys are not playing, all this stuff is coming into perspective, I like our offense's chances against this freaking defense. Because everything about this defense that's bad definitely helps our offense. It literally plays right into our offense's strengths. So that's the first part here. The second part, again, much like how I talked with the Seattle Seahawks prior to that game. Let's take a look at who Dallas has actually played this year. Dallas has played 5 games. They obviously just got done playing the Steelers for their Week 5 game. But who else have they played? The first game of the year they played against the Cleveland Browns. Probably the most dysfunctional team that has ever played in the NFL, because that team literally has no cohesion. There seems to be no organizational awareness as far as what is going on with that squad. And yeah, they beat up on the Browns. Okay, whoop-de-doo. I'm glad you were able to beat up on one of the most dysfunctional teams in the NFL. But then the very next week, they played the New Orleans Saints. Absolutely got embarrassed in Jerry World. They got destroyed 44-19. Then they played the Ravens. Now, that was actually a good game by Dallas. They actually made it into a good game. They lost only by 3 points against, Baltimore. But the reason why that game is important is because if you go back to that game against the Ravens, Derrick Henry absolutely murdered them. Lamar was also efficient as well as a passer. And if you take a look at it, yeah, Dallas made a game of it, but Dak was too little too late in that game. Then you get to their Week 4 game, which was against the Giants. This is where I'm really going to start hammering home this point here, because you take a look at the Giants game, and you take a look at the Steelers game. Both of those games, Dallas barely won. And the Giants and Steelers are not exactly the most strongest of teams. The Giants literally, when they won that game against the Giants, they barely won, because they only won by 5 points. They won 20-15, right? But the Giants literally only ran the ball for 26 yards, folks, and they only won by 5 points. That means in that game, the Giants' offense was one-dimensional. They just threw the ball almost the entire damn game, and they still only barely won. Then when you talk about the Steelers game that they just played, they again only won that game by 3 points, 20-17, and Dak was terrible in that game. He had a fumble lost and he had 2 interceptions. He had 3 turnovers. So if you take a look at how Dallas has played over the last 2 weeks against 2, I would say, mediocre teams, and they've only won by literally a spread of 8 points, that right there ought to tell you something. It ought to tell you that even though the Cowboys are 3-2, they have quite literally only played one really good team, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. And like I said, when they played the Baltimore Ravens, they made a game of it. But Derrick Henry absolutely gashed them. They were absolutely destroyed in that game. And like I said, outside of the Ravens, all of the other teams they played have either been middle-of-the-pack teams, mediocre teams, or they're just bad overall. So again, like it told me about the Seattle Seahawks in Week 4, the Cowboys have not really been challenged a whole hell of a lot. Again, I'm just speaking the facts for what they are. It was just like I did when I talked about the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks literally had not been challenged before they played us. The only difference here is that the Cowboys have been. And the only game that they have been has been the Ravens, which I'll give them credit. They made a game of it. So yeah, they do have at least something to work against me on. But then that brings me back to the injury problem. Yeah, Marshawn Kneeland is out because he has a partial meniscus tear. Dexter Lawrence is on IR, so he's out. Micah Parsons is going to be out. And then you also have Brandon Cooks, their second best wide receiver on offense, is out. They've got a lot of key players that are out for this game. That's going to be a huge problem for them because when you're missing these many players and they're all good players, it's hard to try and win games. And it's especially even harder when you're trying to play and win a game against a team like us because, not only, like I said, is our team one of the best in the NFL from a talent perspective, but then again, on top of that, we have the vendetta factor. We have the payback factor. We have the, we're going to come into your stadium and we are going to literally kick your ass up and down the stadium. I literally can tell you this. There is no shortage of motivation for what the Lions, coaches and Lions players have for this week. They are going to be like, oh yeah, we've had this one circled for quite a while. We're going to get some, we're going to extract our pound of flesh. We're going to get our measure of revenge here. So again, there's that. And when you take a look at the fact that, like I've been talking about, the Cowboys are going to be missing their 3 best pass rushers. But, as we've already seen, Ragnow is practicing this week. And that right there bodes well for the Lions getting him back. Why? Because as we already saw when we played the Seahawks, we were able to actually hold up rather well against the Seahawks without Ragnow. So getting him back is going to definitely help us even much more. Because the Lions have the sixth best passing block grade from PFF with a 74.4, and we also have the 4th best run block grade from PFF. So our offensive line is, again, considered one of the best in the NFL as far as actual performance. But as far as talent, it is the best. And when you have a defensive front that is completely depleted, and you have to face an offensive line like ours, and then, by the way, you still have Montgomery and Gibbs in the backfield, and you don't have virtually anybody up front, and your defense has already been one of the worst run defenses throughout the first 5 weeks of the year. I got one thing to say to y'all Cowboys fans. Good freaking luck. Because out of the 5 games that Dallas's defense has played, they've also only played against quarterbacks that, how should I put this? The only quarterback really that they have faced that's really been of any sort of noteworthiness would primarily be Lamar Jackson. Other than that, not really anybody springs to mind because nobody else has really been playing all that well. But I decided to take a look at this. All the quarterbacks that they have faced, which, Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, Daniel Jones, Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's not really a pretty picture, folks. But when you take a look at the stats that I found here, when those quarterbacks were kept clean, so they weren't being pressured, or when they were throwing play action passes, take a look at this. When they were kept clean, those 5 quarterbacks, they were 73 of 100, so that's 73 completion percentage rate, for 805 yards, 5 touchdowns to 4 interceptions with a 96.5 passer rating. For the play action component was 24 of 44 for 54.5%, 391 yards, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception with a 90.3 passer rating. Now, obviously, some of those numbers are going to overlap each other. But why are those numbers important? Why is because most of the quarterbacks, like I said, they have faced are bad. Justin Fields, Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, Lamar Jackson's the only exception, and then you have Deshaun Watson. Other than Lamar Jackson, just because of the sheer physical talent that he has, his physical, athleticism, Jared Goff is better than all of them as a passing quarterback. He literally blows them all out of the water. It's not even a comparison. It's not even a contest. So you take a look at Jared Goff as a quarterback, and those were what those guys did against Dallas's defense. Okay, how's Jared Goff done in the same parameters? Okay, here you go. Against all the teams that Jared Goff has played this year, same parameters. When kept clean, Jared Goff has been 67 of 91 for 73.6%, 744 yards, 4 touchdowns to 2 interceptions for 104.4 passer rating. In play action, damn freaking ridiculous. 35 of 44 for 79.5%, 538 yards, 1 touchdown to 1 interception with 115.7 passer rating. And why does that matter? Why it matters is because when Goff is playing at his best, it's when we get the run game going. And when it gets started hot, it starts working, and then, that's when we start really seeing our offense come to life. And that's when the quarterback starts playing really good. And that's typical for virtually every freaking offense there is. Every quarterback has to have at least some semblance of a competent running game. It's not just Goff. We've seen it happen time and time again. Well, like I said, the Cowboys defense has only surrendered 100-plus rushing yards in 2 games. Even though they have one of the worst rush defenses, they've only surrendered 100-plus rushing yards in 2 games. You want to know what those 2 games were? The freaking Ravens and the New Orleans Saints. And if you look up how they did with those top rushing performances, when you take out the Cowboys' other 3 performances in the same parameters that I've been talking about here, quarterbacks being kept clean and play action passing, you are going to get a very, very clear picture here about what Jared Goff could do when our offensive line starts allowing us to run the ball. Take a look at this. When kept clean in the games against the Saints and the Ravens, so for Derek Carr and for Lamar Jackson, this is what those guys did. They were 19 of 24 for 79.2%, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception for 129.2 passer rating. In play action, they were 11 of 16 for 68.8%, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception with 125 passer rating. Yeah, folks. Let me just point it out there. Let me paint this in bright neon colors. Once we get our run game going against this putrid Cowboys defense, Jared Goff is literally going to be able to do what he's been doing over the last 2 games. He is going to be able to carve up that secondary. You've got no pass rushers, so you can't get after him. You've got an offensive line that can both pass block and run block for days. And we've got all of our weapons. And our offense is literally clicking right now. It's firing on all cylinders. So, yeah. Jared Goff, our offense, should have no problem going up against this Dallas defense. I don't care if we're in Jerry World or not. And I don't care how much money Jerry tries to throw at the situation. It ain't going to make a damn bit of difference. Because the summary of all this stuff, what it tells me is a few things. 1, the Cowboys are going to get attacked on the ground all the damn night. The Lions are going to go after them on the ground almost damn near extensively. They're going to go exclusively, and they're going to do it extensively. The Lions are a top 5 rush offense, folks. And, that's right. We're going up against a below average to bad rush defense. Then on top of that, once the run game gets going, it's going to keep the Cowboys defense off balance, which is then going to open up the play action game, which Goff is the best quarterback in that category. Plus, with Goff behind said offensive line, and the fact that there is a great run and pass combo for our offense, I believe the Cowboys defense will be in terms of just absolutely being in an excruciating situation. because you cannot stop one or the other without losing something. And since you don't have any pass rushers and your defense is horrible in the run component, you're going to be in a bad situation. Now, I will say this, much like I said with the Seahawks, don't underestimate the Cowboys. Again, like I said in that Baltimore game they played, they were able to come back and make a game of it. So I'm not underestimating the Cowboys. But I know this, based upon the numbers, based upon the facts, based upon the data, much like the Seahawks game, they literally can have the same impact, and I'm talking about the Lions, towards the Cowboys that they did against the Seahawks. So again, for me, based upon what I'm seeing here, the Lions should be able to go into Jerry World and just absolutely FLUMMOX, confuse, just do whatever they want with the Dallas defense, because that defense is literally in just absolute disarray. But anyway, folks, having said that, I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also encourage you all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage you all please to also make sure you subscribe, but make sure, please, hit that bell notification icon so you guys never miss any more content. Also want to encourage y'all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we can do that, the greater we have a reach on YouTube, outside of YouTube, and, all around, so that way we can bring in new content viewership. And with that being finally said, I just want to say to everybody, I hope you all are having a great day. Whether you guys have been a long-time viewer or whether you guys have been a short-time viewer, I also hope you guys enjoyed the content. Hope you got something in your life that makes you guys happy, makes you guys smile. And with that, my friends, I just want to say thank you all for watching the content. God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.